Welcome to Austin Stories. Today, an entitled Karen tries to steal OP's stuff to give to her kids because she can't parent and discipline them properly. How does OP stand up for himself? And then an entitled coworker who gets caught in a lie, and finally everything comes crashing down on him. Now, by the way, all of my videos are in podcast form, so search for the Austin Stories podcast on your local provider, or check out the link I'll have in the description for you below. Here we go. A Karen attacked me over headphones and a DVD player while I was camping because I was watching Tailspin, claiming her child needed something to entertain themselves with. Posted by No Chrysler for me. In the past, I've made posts about my jerk of a brother, but this time something else happened. I decided to go camping again for the first time this year because of spring break, though I only got the weekend to go. But it was just enough for me to unwind. My brother didn't follow me like he used to. I think I've finally gotten him to understand that screwing with me is just not worth it anymore after he drank that growler full of laxative spiked beer that he stole from me last year. So the drama from him has not been as bad for the past few months. Though he's still an entitled jerk, and I've got plenty of things to tell about him and his antics from the months that I wasn't posting, well, I figured my worries about camping trouble were over. But no, I had to deal with a lunatic, Karen. I had already spent one night at my campsite, and I was loving the fresh air, and fortunately, rain was minimal. That's the only reason I went. Otherwise, I'd just have stayed home. But I had an itch to scratch to get out and enjoy some mountain air. I was far from alone, as the spaces around me were full of tents, trailers, and RVs. Plenty of people caught the camping bug during spring break, just like I did. I was sitting relaxed in a folding lawn chair and watching Tailspin on my portable DVD player. Yeah, I know it's a cartoon, and it's an old one at that, but I enjoy it since as a kid I used to watch some old tapes of it that a cousin had, and I've owned the DVDs of the complete series for around 10 years now. And I won't deny, I've always had a bit of a crush on the character Rebecca Cunningham. I had headphones on because the other campers were playing music and barbecuing, and they were doing other things. I was just chilling and letting myself mentally zone out with some refreshing cold beer when I got a sudden and hard tap on my shoulder that frankly scared the heck out of me for a second. And then I turned around to see a roughly middle-aged woman in over-tight purple yoga pants with her hands on her hips. She didn't have the Karen haircut, but she did have the bleach blonde hair and the overly large bug-eye sunglasses. I know in this situation, a lot of people will reflexively say, "Can I help you?" But that's just giving an opening to these people to say whatever they want. So my first reaction is to just angrily say, "What? Can't you see I'm trying to relax by myself?" That set her aback for a second. She didn't go away, so I paused the episode I was on and grumpily asked her what she was bothering me about. She spoke up in a matter-of-fact way that sounded like she was trying to be in charge. I guess trying to activate mom mode on a stranger. But I think the unfriendly scowl on my face was enough to show that I'm not exactly friendly. So she just pointed at the portable DVD player and said that she wanted to borrow it and the headphones for her daughter. To make it brief, I said no. And no is a complete sentence. Because I don't know her, I don't know if she'd bring it back, and I certainly don't know if her kid wouldn't damage it. I do actually keep a smaller backup portable DVD player in the camper too, but I wasn't about to let this woman know that. Well, she certainly didn't take to being told off like that well, and then launched into a tirade about how I was a grown man watching cartoons, how they only have one TV in their RV, and her daughter needs something to watch because her kids can't agree on what to watch, so she needs my DVD player. I coldly said that that was not happening, and she actually gave me a loud "why not?" So I pointed out to her that this was really not my problem, and that she just crossed her arms and said that, as an adult, I should be putting kids first. I said that would be the case if I had kids, but her kids are not my kids, I don't know them, and I'm in no way related to them, and therefore I have no obligation to them. So she rolled her eyes and then tried to offer me money for the headphones and the DVD player. Admittedly, I didn't pay much for either of them, but I don't care. I wasn't interested in selling. She only offered $20 for both anyway. So I just told her no and just to kindly leave me alone to watch movies in peace. Then I tried to just sit back down and resume the episode. She didn't take that well and proceeded to try and grab my DVD player right in front of me, like I was just gonna let her walk off with it. I got up and stopped her while saying, "That ain't yours, lady." She proceeded to try and shove me over. Try being the word. She clearly underestimated how heavy I am. I don't look it at all, but I'm around 230 pounds. My body frame just hides it well, and I've been in a few brawls in my life. I ended up grabbing her arms and shoving her back with little effort. She fell on her bum into some wet grass and started yelling that I'd assaulted her while looking around for support. I've seen enough Karen stories to know where this goes if I say nothing. So I yelled, "Yeah, assault on me when you tried to push me over and steal my stuff, and there's plenty of witnesses around us, lady, or did you not notice?" There had already been a few people around us watching the whole altercation, and they'd gone dead quiet while staring. So then I said to everyone, "Check it out. We've got a bona fide Karen here who tried to take my stuff for her precious angel baby. Everybody clap for her." And they did. They actually started clapping. The Karen looked completely humiliated and stormed off screeching that I was a butthole. Her yoga pants butt was all wet from the grass too, which only made it funnier. I kept thinking, "Your butt is grass," as she walked away, but I didn't say it aloud. I tried to resume watching the DVD as I was, but I felt uneasy that the Karen might come back. She snuck up on me rather easily before, and I didn't want to risk that again. So I packed up and went back into my camper to continue watching and drinking inside. Got pretty plastered that night. Stayed at the campsite for one more night, and I didn't see the Karen again until I was leaving Sunday afternoon. I saw her standing by her crappy-looking RV with a large fountain beverage in one hand and a dog leash in the other. It was one of those yappy little fluffball dogs too. She glared at me as I drove past, and I just waved to her and said, "Bye, Karen," out my window. She threw her drink at my truck, but none of it got in through the window. I could hear her yelling at me, but couldn't really make out a word of it. I'm not sure what goes on in the heads of these people, and I do understand that this could have really gotten a lot worse. Like that nut bar sticking the local ranger on me or something. But I think the public humiliation was enough to make her back off. I can only wonder if the rest of her family is just like her. Glad I didn't meet them. An update. I would like to clarify that the tap that the Karen did on my shoulder was by no means light. She had long fake nails and tapped my shoulder hard like she was on a mission to dig her nails into my skin in rapid succession. And that really ticked me off from the start. We gotta check out the top comment by Domprio that says, "Awesome way to handle Karen. There's nothing wrong with an adult watching cartoons. I watch cartoons all the time and I'm 46. If you like Tailspin, check out DuckTales or Darkwing Duck. There's a couple other cool cartoons from that generation, like Thundercats and Animaniacs are a couple that I can think of." And then this whole Karen thing, she was trying to take things for her kids that don't belong to them, which is clearly a red flag. Not to even mention saying that my kids need it, they can't decide what to watch. Well, as the parent, you have to step in and discipline your children to be able to say, "Hey, this is what we're watching. This is how we're going to come to this agreement. I am the adult in this room and I'm going to fairly and justly do this." And you know what? That just did not happen here. I'm a parent myself, and I'm reading this story, looking at this situation, like, you gotta be able to have that parental role and maintain that control over your children. Yes, there are disputes that children have. Yes, they get mad at each other, but you have to go in with a cool head as the parent and be able to be that, is it liaison? What's the word I'm looking for? If you can please comment and let me know. Be able to be that person that stands in the middle and says, "Okay, this is how we're going to do. I see what you want, kid A. I see what you want, kid B. Here's how we're going to come to this agreement." However, she just tried to go off and steal OP stuff. That does not work. You lose and OP wins. Entitled Coworker finally got his due, posted by eGrant03. 5 or more years ago, I worked in an office with a coworker, EC Entitled Coworker, that always one-upped you. If you had good news, he had better news. If you had a crappy weekend, it was nothing compared to his. A coworker came in looking distraught, and we finally coaxed it out of her that her mom was recently diagnosed with malignant breast cancer. Entitled Coworker overheard, and suddenly his dad was diagnosed with another kind of cancer and a heart attack on the same day. If looks could have killed, he would have melted through the floor. A bunch of people went to HR after that, but in true HR style, he was too important, we can't prove it's false, blah 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 blah. Nothing ever happened. We knew he was full of it, and there was no way half the stuff he said was true, but it wore you down. About 5 months later, we were talking about our weekends on Monday. I casually mentioned that my nephew took state in both grade and weight in a recent wrestling tournament. Who shall be overhearing? But Entitled Coworker. He swoops in and says, "My nephew has plenty of wrestling medals. I bet he's not as good as mine. What's his name? I want to pull up his ranking." I gave him his name because the Entitled Coworker had jumped with both feet before I could tell my other coworkers that he's been nationally ranked since he was 6 for both grade and weight class. Yeah, I also didn't say that he'd recently accepted a prestigious invitation to wrestle for an international wrestling club with a number of Olympians having come from the program. Winning state was a pre-qualifier to the program, but everyone knew he would get it done. I didn't know they posted stats for 4th graders online, but sure enough, he pulled them up on the office computer. It only took a minute before he closed the window and tried to change the subject. A small crowd had gathered at this point, so I grabbed his keyboard and with Control, Shift, and T, I reopened the window promptly. I don't know enough about wrestling stats to tell you how good he was, but others apparently did and were freaking out about his stats. I knew he was good, but was apparently a savant or something. Lest we forget, people then started asking about Entitled Coworker's nephew and his stats. EC was floundering and trying his best to backpedal, but no one would let him. We searched with his last name and got no one that it could be. EC then started saying that it was his nephew on the other side. EC had bragged about being related to the governor, so we knew what name to search, and still, no one the right age range was to be his nephew. Suddenly, EC yelled that he was in 2nd grade, so it wasn't online. My nephew's stats were online from 1st grade, so that was BS. Next came, he lives in another state. But that didn't matter, as he was quickly shown wrestlers from other states, clubs and leagues, and even genders. EC's face was turning every shade of red before he finally stormed away, yelling something about harassment and going to HR. HR did reach out, but we pointed out the blatant hypocrisy when others filed complaints about him. A strongly worded email about unity, being a team player, and respect in the workplace was sent around, that everyone ignored. I stayed there another 10 or so months before I moved. Entitled Coworker still tried to insert himself into conversations and to one-up everyone, but all it took was someone saying, "How did your nephew do in wrestling this weekend?" And he shut up. The beauty of this is that this guy gets away with this for so long, and nobody can prove that it was him, right? And they just knew it was. Like when the police have the person, they know it's the criminal, but they cannot prove the crime. And finally, he digs his own hole. He wants so badly to one-up the OP and say, "I do this better than you do," that he makes something up on the fly, doesn't have enough sense to back it up like the other stuff he did, and then that is the nail in the coffin right there, because nobody's going to let him live this down ever again in his life. OP, you did great. Way to go. HOA President Karen puts first responders and her homeowners in danger, all because she doesn't want to break the HOA rules. Click the video on your screen. You do not want to miss one of the greatest stories ever, and I will see you in that next one.